Okay, the Pueblos. My quest to run 101 bull runs in the small towns of Spain, by Bill Hillmann and published by Tortoise Books, an independent publishing house in Chicago, in 2021. I was interested in this book because I live in Spain. I'm an American living in Spain. And then I came across an interview that Bill Hillmann gave to a guy named Bryn Jonathan Butler, also a writer, on Bryn Jonathan Butler's podcast, Tourist Information. I think it's sponsored by the Ring magazine. And I recommend that podcast because it's a way to get acquainted with Hillmann's character without ruining the book. Hillmann is a true character. He is an adventurer. He grew up as a tough kid on the streets of Chicago. He was a Golden Gloves champion, a street brawler, has had problems with alcoholism and with mental illness. One day, by chance, he read from cover to cover Ernest Hemingway's The Sun Also Rises, which is in part about the bull runs in Pamplona, Spain. And Hillmann was hooked by this. The book, I would say, centered him, gave him a vocation, an intellectual vocation, but also a kind of spiritual vocation, because bull running is that for him. He describes bull running extremely well. The goal of every bull runner is to get in front of the bulls when they run from their pens through the streets of the Spanish towns to arrive eventually to the bull ring. The goal of the good bull runner is to get directly in front of the horns of the lead bull. At that point, the bull either blasts you aside or decides to accept you as his leader. And then the best bull runners will run 300, 400 yards with this pack of bulls behind them. That's the thrill, because there's a connection, an emotional, spiritual connection made with the animals. Bill Hillmann says that the US media does a piss-poor job of explaining bull culture or Spanish bull culture. I think that's 100% true, and I think Hillmann rectifies that with this book. The story is this. In 2014, after a decade of running with the bulls, he's got another book published in 2015 called Mozos. Mozo is the Spanish word for bull runner. Mozos, a decade of running with the bulls of Spain. That was published in 2015 by another independent press in Chicago called Curbside Splendor, which I heard closed in disgrace in 2019 after the owner allegedly wasn't paying royalties to the authors. I hope Hillmann didn't get caught up in that, because he deserves better. Anyway, after running a decade with the bulls, Hillmann gets gored in the thigh. It's brutal. His description of that at the start of the book is intense. At one point he describes the sound as the sound was like a knife cutting through styrofoam. That's how it sounded when the bull's horn entered his thigh. He almost lost his life. Knocked him out of the bull running season. Then he comes back in 2015, the summer of 2015, a year later. It's a disappointing season for him. He has one or two good runs, but generally it's disappointing. He returns to the States. His wife at the time, Enid, decides that she needs to go to Panama to work in the Peace Corps. So Hillmann decides that he's going to spend the rest of that year saving up money, driving an Uber, getting his Spanish up to par by going for lessons at the Instituto Cervantes in Chicago. and then returns in 2016, the summer of 2016, with the goal of, in 84 days, running 101 bull runs in various towns of Spain. Bill Hillmann, although he calls himself a decent foreign runner who gets lucky, that's modest. I would say it's not falsely modest. One of the things that Hillmann accomplishes in this book is he manages to convey his very, very likable personality. I don't think he's out to convey his likable personality. His likable personality is just conveyed. This book has heart. This book has soul. It has duende, which is an untranslatable Spanish word, which is sort of like spirit. Okay? He's got it. He can do this. He's got the spirit and soul for running with the bulls. And the local runners respect him. He's gained their respect. I would even say that he's a galvanizing force. He brings the Spanish runners together. He's a guy you would want on your team. He's a guy you would want in the trenches. I mean, he saves lives in this book, as well as risking his own again and again and again. He knows how to be in the right place in the right time, which all the best athletes know how to do. A book like this, written by an athlete at the top of his game, and that's what bull running is. Bull running is a sport. It's not like bullfighting. Bullfighting is an art, okay? So you have an athlete at the top of his game, running with the best athletes at the time in his sport. He's able to write the book himself. Normally a book like this will be written by a ghostwriter. If I say this book lacks literary sophistication, that is not a put down. In fact, I don't know how it will be possible to write unself-consciously about such an emotionally thrilling activity unless he's gushing, unless he's just putting it all out there. There are times when he is not pausing to look for the perfect word. He's just letting it fly. In fact, he makes a stylistic decision of putting in italics any of the thoughts he has while he's running with the bulls. You know, he'll say things like, fuck, this could get interesting. Or, man, what a breathtaking town. Or, fuck, how the hell didn't I know about this shit? Or, fuck, they ain't stopping. Okay? I can see the literati getting annoyed at that. I do not get annoyed at that. If there's a bone that I have to pick with him and with the publishing house, is that I think if you write a book like this, you have to get the Spanish right. Okay? There are many places where the Spanish is just wrong. The verb tenses are wrong, the accents are not in the right place, the punctuation is incorrect. Look, Tortoise Books is a small operation. They don't have the editors maybe to sort of copy edit the Spanish, but this should have been done. There's not a lot of Spanish in the book, but I mean, this book is about respecting a culture. It's about immersing yourself and respecting a different culture. That's what Bill Hillmann has done. So therefore, he should have worked harder, and the press should have worked harder to get the Spanish right. The book is also interesting because after Hillmann gets gored in 2014, he becomes a kind of sensation. The piece of news goes viral. I think the headline is something like, Bull Survival Guide author gets gored. And you know, all the consequences of going viral like that, it's fascinating because you see how going viral can be so intense and even traumatic, but at the same time so fleeting. At the same time that he's in Spain during this summer running these bull runs, he's also promoting the Spanish edition of his book Mozos. A lot of his anxiety and his emotional ups and downs come from his desire to triumph as an author, and his hope that his going viral will somehow turn his book into a success. He's very, very transparent in the best of ways. The book doesn't have much stylistic range. The book is not crafted. At the same time, I don't know if that's fair to say though, because I think it was probably an authorial decision to write this book as he's written it. I'm curious because he also wrote a novel called The Old Neighborhood. I'm curious to know what literary talents and skills he showed in that book. It obviously means something to him to be a writer. He defines himself by it as much as he defines himself by running with the bulls. So, do I recommend this book? I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. With this book, you forget you're reading. With this book, you forget you're reading. You're just with the guy. You're running with the bulls. That's a huge accomplishment.